Hi everyone, it's Jasmine and welcome back to this channel. So to start off this video, I'm going to give you guys a little background about myself. I was born and raised in Canada, so my nationality is Canadian, but my ethnicity is Indian. Both my parents were born in India and immigrated here. I speak both English and Punjabi. So 2 months ago, I realized I never had read a book where the main character was brown or was an Indian girl, had an Indian name, and I could never really relate to the character on that level because most of the characters I read about were white. I'm also writing a book right now and my main character is brown and she's Indian. I realized that I also had never read a book by an Indian author. So I got 4 books from the library by South Asian authors and here are my thoughts on them. So the first book I'm going to talk about is The Star-Touched Queen. I'm not going to say the author because I feel like I'm going to butcher their names, so yeah. And I'm talking about this book first because I didn't read it. I tried to read the first chapter, but I really couldn't get into the writing style. I got bored easily. And when I read a book, if I'm bored the first chapter, I stop reading because I just can't get into it. I'm not even giving this book a rating because I only read the first chapter and I was just really out of it. Now, the second book I'm going to talk about is When Dimple Met Rishi. Now, first things first, I think this cover is really ugly. I'm going to be honest. I judge a book by its cover and I don't like it. But it was by a South Asian author, and even though I don't like what the synopsis was about, like what the story was going to be about, I knew that the main character, Dimple, she was born and raised in North America, like me. And I was like, wow, I can relate to this main character. But I also didn't finish this. I got halfway through, but I realized that I hated both the characters. I really didn't like Dimple, and I would forget whose point of view we were in, like halfway through one of the chapters. The 2 point of views in this book are Dimple and Rishi, but sometimes Dimple's point of view would just be like half a page and then it would go to Rishi, and then it was just really weird. I'm going to find an example to show you guys. Okay, so here on page 160, it's Rishi's point of view, and then it goes to Dimple after like half-ish a page. And that would happen a lot in this book, and I just really didn't like it. Also, she would write, I think it was Hindi. I speak Punjabi, so I think it was Hindi. She would write it in English. I kind of suck at reading that, but she'd write that, and I did get it, but she wouldn't write what it means in English, so I feel like that would be confusing to other readers. And yeah, so I'm giving this 1 star because I really hated the characters. I didn't like the story. I felt like it was unrealistic dialogue. It just wasn't good. Now, the third book I'm going to talk about is Written in the Stars. This book, I gave it, I think, 4 stars, and I really liked it. I finished it in basically a day, and it's a really sad story. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but the main character, Naila, she was born in America, and I could relate to her on a lot of aspects. And spoilers ahead, but the book was basically about how she had a secret boyfriend. Her parents found out, and they went on a trip to Pakistan, but then they forced her into an arranged marriage, and it was just so sad. And it's even sadder that so many girls right now are going through this in Pakistan and India. I was so relieved to find out what kind of ending Naila had in this, because I thought it was going to go in a totally different direction. And it's sad that some girls don't get the happy ending that Naila got in this. I think everyone should read this so they get exposure to what's happening in India and Pakistan right now, what's happening to young girls, and the lengths that their parents go to not feel embarrassment in their culture and the people around them. My parents are not like this. My parents are very loving and caring, and they would never do to me what Naila had to suffer in this. But it's really difficult to think about how there are parents like this, and they would claim that they loved her and they were doing this because they loved her, and maybe I felt like that's really what her parents thought, and how a lot of parents justify what they're doing to their daughters. And yeah, that's all I can really say about it without going into more spoilers, so I really recommend this book to everybody. Now, the 4th book I'm going to talk about is An Ember in the Ashes. You may have heard of it. This is the old cover. I really enjoyed this book. It's a fantasy book, and the main character is a brown girl, and I love YA fantasy. I've always wanted to read a fantasy book where the main girl was a brown or Indian girl. And so I really enjoyed this book. I enjoyed the story. And this book is split into 2 point of views, Leia and Elias. I actually enjoyed Elias's story more because it was more interesting to me. He's basically like an assassin slash soldier in training called a mask, but he doesn't want to be a mask. He doesn't enjoy killing people. And Leia is a slave who also joins the rebellion, and there's a lot of plot twists and things like that I'm not really going to talk about. But yeah, I think everyone should also read this book. I gave it 4.5 stars because I know not everybody is into this kind of book, because it's a YA fantasy. I think it's a YA fantasy at least. It's a YA fantasy, and there's a lot of similar tropes that are seen in other YA fantasies that some people just don't enjoy. So yeah. I actually got the second book from the library and I'm reading it right now. And this is the new covers, which I think looks so cool. But yeah, I'm gonna read the rest of the series and I'm already enjoying this one. So yeah, that was my experience reading 4 books by South Asian authors. And I can't wait to read more. It's really hard for me to find some more South Asian authors because a lot of their books are about arranged marriages and things like that I'm not really into. Like, I really liked An Ember in the Ashes because it's a fantasy book. Like, it's not about arranged marriages. I also liked Written in the Stars a lot because it gave me exposure. Like, I knew those things were happening to girls being forced into arranged marriages, but this book really made me think about it more and it made me sad. I talked to my parents about it, so that's why I enjoyed that book. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and maybe subscribe and tune into my next video. Bye!